Feds questioned Jen Shah's Real Housewives of Salt Lake City co-stars. What did they know? Plus, how did the rumor that one of them turned her in get started? Hey reality reporters, Christy here, and as always, I've done the research so that you don't have to. Here is everything the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City have said about Jen Shah's arrest. Let's kick things off with the friend who seemed to know her the longest and the best before this series even started. Even though they're somewhat frenemies now, let's talk about what Heather Gay had to say about all of this. So she told Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live that she always suspected Jen's business was, quote, unsavory. Okay, well, Heather, what do you really mean by that? Heather says when she had Jen on her podcast, they talked about Jen's business the whole time and that Heather still didn't understand what exactly Jen does. Heather admits that she knew something was up with Jen's business, but she also added that she was her friend back then when she was just suspicious, and now that she knows something is definitely going down, she isn't going to change her opinion or her friendship with Jen just because all that is public now. Okay, so you're gonna keep being her friend, but the big question here, Heather, do you think she's guilty? Well, in another interview, Heather said, I think good people can do bad things. And she acknowledged that Jen is claiming she's innocent. That's an interesting use of words. She goes on to say, even if Jen gets wrongfully convicted, she can still redeem herself. So, wow. Heather kind of preparing us all there for Jen to be convicted for this. And let's keep in mind, Heather knows more than we do. But it sounds like she'll be standing by her friend either way. Well, someone who has had to disengage from Jen's drama in the past is Meredith Marks. And she, of course, has this very interesting moment in the trailer where it looks like Whitney is accusing her of actually turning Jen into the feds. Let's get to the bottom of that. So you may or may not remember that Meredith is a licensed lawyer. She's never practiced, but she went to law school, she did all this stuff. So it sounds like what happened here is that Meredith obviously knows a ton about the law. So as the ladies were discussing Jen's case as the season played out, somehow Meredith's knowledge of the law got misconstrued into being knowledge about Jen's case, which then kind of prompted Whitney to ask if she had anything to do with Jen being busted, and for Jen herself in that moment in the trailer when she's crying and screaming, telling Meredith that she better not have had anything to do with Jen being turned in. Meredith, as we saw, wasn't even there when Jen got arrested, but it seems that she did know a little more than she's letting on, because Meredith revealed in another interview that all of the cast have been DM'd information about Jen and her business and what's going on there. So Meredith made it sound like even before the season began filming that somebody was reaching out to the castmates to say, hey, here's what's going on with Jen Shah. Well, Meredith, the licensed but not practicing attorney, must have put some faith in that information because she says that it tied into a lot of the decisions that she made. Interesting. So another recipient of that information, of course, would be Whitney Rose, who it sounds like was in a really interesting position with Jen when the season kicked off. So they've had their drama, of course, but Whitney says that when they began filming, Jen was actually really nice to her, that they seemed to have started over and were sort of trying to build a friendship. So Whitney wasn't rocking the boat in any way, shape, or form with what Jen had going on. She wasn't suspecting anything, she says, and you can even see in that moment where Jen gets a phone call on the bus and she turns to Whitney and asks her to turn off her mic. Whitney looks confused, right? She has no idea what's going on.
Okay, wait. Can I what? Can we turn it off? Yeah.
Well, here's what she had to say about that moment. She said, taking the mic off, that's a no-no. We don't do that. But Whitney says when Jen looked at her with pure terror and fear, wow. Whitney says, I just knew. I saw the fear in her eyes. Wow. She was there and she says she just knew that something major was going down here. Well, things have changed a little bit for Whitney and Jen since all that. It seems that the rebuilding of their friendship must have gotten torn down at some point in the season, because very recently Whitney has called Jen the fakest of all the Salt Lake City housewives. Whitney might also know why we aren't hearing from another one of the Salt Lake City housewives on this matter. I'm talking about Mary Cosby now, who has been very quiet about Jen's legal issues. Actually, Mary doesn't do a whole lot of interviews herself at all. And I'm thinking something that Whitney clued us into for this new season can tell us why. So Whitney says that Mary herself is going to get a lot of flack this season. She is going to be scrutinized, her church, and we see some stuff even in the trailer, people suspecting that her church is actually a cult. There are some allegations that Mary calls herself God and some other things that get real deep with religion. Right? And some things that maybe people do or don't understand, but that can certainly get misconstrued. And I'm thinking that Mary is somebody who likes what she's got going on in life and that she believes in it and she doesn't think she's doing anything wrong, but she's not trying to rock the boat either. She's been dealing with negativity and allegations about her church since it started. Okay, there's a big story there, and you should check out my last video on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, where some family members came out of the woodwork and commented, and there's a whole lot to talk about there. But Mary doesn't want to talk about it. So you can bet that if there's mud being slung about Jen Shah, Mary isn't going to be picking up any handfuls and throwing them anyway. She's too busy kind of cowering in the corner, making sure that nobody looks too closely at what she's got going on. So do not expect to hear anything from Mary Cosby on Jen Shah's legal troubles. Well, the person who seems like she's maybe Jen's only friend, Lisa Barlow,
I was a killer,
says she was shocked by all of this. And Lisa said some really interesting things that made me believe she had no clue what was going on here. She said that she thought this was actually going to be the season where Jen Shah redeemed herself, where she got to show another softer side, and that the conversation about her would be very different than it was during season 1. The Vida Tequila slinger and Bella Beauty manager added that she isn't going to let Jen's legal drama change who she is as a person or a friend, as in she's going to continue to support Jen no matter what. Well, somebody who can say they legit didn't know anything that was going down is newcomer Jennie Nguyen. Hello, ladies. So she was actually cast for this season just to be a friend of, but with all that Jen had going down in her absence, Jennie filmed a lot more and was upgraded to actually holding a, what do they hold? A snowflake or something? I don't know.
Icy, fight, haters wanna fight.
This is all working out quite well for Jennie, who production sources insist was not hired to replace Jen, but certainly seems that that's what's happening. Jen's trial doesn't start until March of 2022, so we have some waiting to do, but she is facing a max of 30 years in federal prison for a fraud conspiracy charge and another 20 years for conspiracy to commit money laundering. So there will be much to discuss in the meantime. I'll be doing it right here. Make sure you hit that big red subscribe button, and I will see you soon with more reality TV news.